Good day, grade 7 students. So, I'm Miss Aika, your math tutor. So, welcome to our new lesson for today, which is the square root. So, square root, it is a number when multiplied to itself will give you the original number. So, let us familiarize ourselves with square roots. For example, we have here the square root of 5. So, we are going to identify its part. So, this sign, which looks like a division sign, that is what we call the radical sign. And the number inside the radical sign is what we call the radicand. And the number outside, which is located here. So, if we have the square root, automatically its index is 2. So, this is what we call the index. So, now we are going to have examples of square roots. And we are going to determine its roots. So, if we have positive numbers, the square roots or the roots of a positive numbers are always 2. One is positive and the other one is negative. For example, so madali lang kumuha ng square root ng isang number. For example, we have the square root of 9. So, isip lang kayo ng number na kapag pinag-multiply nyo or i-multiply nyo sa sarili niya, ang magiging sagot ay 9. So, what is that number? Okay, very good. So, we have positive 3. Because when you multiply positive 3 by itself, which is positive 3, the answer will be positive 9. Is there any other answer? Yes, it has. So, we also have negative 3. Because when you multiply negative 3 to itself by itself, negative 3 multiplied by negative 3, the answer will also be positive 9. So, we have two roots for the square roots of a positive number, and those are a positive and a negative. So, paano ba nakukuha itong mga square root na ito? So, we have these so-called perfect square numbers. So, here are they. We have 1 square, that is 1. 2 square, that is 4, which means 2 times 2. 3 square, that is 9, which is 3 times 3. 4 square, or 4 times 4 is 16. 5 square is 25. So, you are just going to multiply it by self. 6 squared is 36. 7 square is 49. 8 square is 64. 9 square is 81. And 10 square is 100. So, those are what we call the perfect square numbers. So, when we get the square root of it, we're going to be back at our roots. So, the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 9 is 3. So, bumabalik lang tayo dun sa number na i-multiply natin sa sarili nila. So, we have square root of 16. That is 4. Square root of 25, that is 5. Square root of 36 is 6. Square root of 49 is 7. Square root of 64 is 8. Square root of 81 is 9. And the square root of 100 is 10. So always remember that when we say square roots, that are two roots. So, ibig sabihin, meron siyang dalawang roots. Isang positive, isang negative. So, all of this is just one of its roots. The other one are the negative numbers or the opposite sign of the given or the roots. So, that is the easiest way on how we are going to get the square roots of the numbers. So, yan ay para lamang sa mga perfect square numbers which are positive or the positive real or the positive numbers rather. So, what if we have a negative numbers, or we are going to get the square root of a negative numbers? So, if the positive or the square root of the positive numbers have two roots, which are a positive and a negative, for the square root of a negative numbers, the answer is an imaginary number. Why? Because negative numbers have no real roots. For example, we have the square root of negative 81. We all know that positive 81 is a perfect square. So here, which is 9. Or where the answer is 9 and negative 9. So if we're going to get its square root, where it becomes negative number, therefore, our roots will be an imaginary number. So, what if we have the square root of negative 49? What is its roots? Yes, we have again the imaginary number. So, that's simple. If you are just going to get the square root or the roots of a negative number, the answer will be always always an imaginary number. So, what about 0? Do we have roots for 0? Yes, we have. The square root of 0 is only 0. Why? Because wala naman tayong positive na 0, wala rin naman tayong negative 0. Kaya ang nag-iisang number na merong iisang roots or iisang root ay ang 0. Okay, so always remember that the square root of positive number have two, which is a positive and a negative number. And for the negative numbers or for the square root of a negative number, the answer is always an imaginary number, and the square root of 0 is just 0. So now, how can we determine or how can we identify if the square root of a given number is irrational or irrational? So here's how. If a number is a perfect square, therefore, it is considered as irrational. While if the number is not a perfect square, it is considered as irrational. So because the square root of a number that is not a perfect square is non-terminating and non-repeating. Non-terminating meaning wala siyang katapusan, then non-repeating meaning walang nauulit na number sa kanya. So that's all for today. See you again on our next lesson. Bye, grade 7.